Greetings and welcome to Conversation with Tony Mobley. Today on Conversation with Tony Mobley, I have Mr. Kenn Jordan sharing this conversation with me. This is episode 8 of 2025 of Conversation with Tony Mobley, and we're happy to share with you all that we are powered by Mimo Live. I want to thank the team behind Conversation with Tony Mobley for all of your hard work. And you can go to conversationwithtonymobley.com to watch this conversation as well as you can watch it on YouTube. There you can also add the Mukana chat. There is a place courtesy of Alex Lindsay where you can ask your questions. That's right, you can ask your questions. Not only can you ask your questions, those questions can be voted up and down. And so we encourage you to ask your questions in Mukana, or you can ask your questions in the YouTube chat. And we're going to get right started. We're going to get started right away. First, let me say welcome, Kenn Jordan. Thank you so much for being here for me. Thank you for staying up so late to be here with me today. And apologies to your wife. And thank you so much for being here. Hello, Kenn Jordan.
Hi Tony, pleasure being here. Yeah, it's 1 in the morning here. Not quite as late as last week or 2 weeks ago when you had Hasmuk on. In South Africa, it was even earlier for him, but it's 1 in the morning here, so it's not too bad.
Well, thank you again for being here. And this question is a question that we've already asked several times, or we're going to ask again just for those who may not have had an opportunity to meet you or hear from you before. Who is Kenn Jordan?
Yeah, I think every time you ask me this, answer in a different way because I never really sure how. But I'm I've been in the tech field for well, that was my 41st year working in with computers. Um, in initially was in the areas of design and development, and now it's more in development side and programming. But yeah, so I've been working with tech for a very long time. And actually now I believe that me and my team and the company that I run, we're seeing a sea change in how we work through what the subject is about today, AI or AGI, and how has transformed the workplace for us, and how we believe that, I believe that um, that AGI for some of us is already here. And what I mean by AGI is it's artificial general intelligence. That's where AI is kind of narrow field where it can play chess. Well, it can already play chess and beat any human at chess, um, or analyze images and find things and that. So narrow, or another term is like kind of narrow AI, where AGI can do tasks which it wasn't programmed to do, um, and can learn from tasks that it knows how to do, and transfer that learning into areas where it hasn't had any prior knowledge. And I believe that for some of us who know how to task or prompt AI, AGI, that blurring is now for us here. For us, it's in certain areas of work. You know, it is AGI for us in terms of being able to, better than what we could do, produce tasks. And going forward, I can, talk about examples of what that is later. But yes, I believe, and for me, and the way we work now, it has really transformed it, and we're seeing that shift, total shift in in um, in workload for us on how using these AI systems, it's we're seeing 10, 20, 30, 40-fold increase in our output and in the quality of what we do. So yeah, it's a long, very long-winded way of answering that question, but it's as I said, it changes every time I come on the show, Tony, what
Yes,
yeah, who I
I want to do a deeper dive into AI and AGI. That's going to be the next question. But
am.
before we go there, I really want to talk to you a little bit more about who Kenn Jordan is from the standpoint of when I was participating in office hours for in the early days, and then when you came on. You were one of the best looking people that appeared in office hours. And I just wondered before we go into AI, if you would talk a little bit about why you thought it was important to come in and look good and some of the the cameras and the setup that you used. I think it's important for people to understand the importance, and it's sort of going back to last week with my conversation with Hasmuk and him talking about the importance of looking good on camera or in a meeting or in a Zoom. And I just wanted you to talk about that for just a little bit.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, office hours um, was great. I mean, for me, and it changed because I was very much before a person that worked behind the scenes, was never really kind of in front of the camera. But I know the importance of um, looking good on Zoom. I mean, that's one of our domains that we actually have that we do because impressions, you know, first impressions count. Your um, your presence, your demeanor and stuff, and and how people do take that into account. I know the old saying is, don't judge a book by its cover. People do, it's
Yes.
there is no two ways about that. And on before appearing on office hours, so yes, it was very much. I know for me, um, wanting to. Um, wanting to present myself well and present myself right because that's what we do in our work. That's what we do for our clients. So to me, it was very natural to do that. And yes, it's it is an investment in doing this, but we believe that the it's like you wouldn't go on stage in if you were presenting to a large audience on stage, you wouldn't go in, your pajamas or you have a tie that you'd wear, you would spend money, have a good nice suit and tie or whatever, in what and how you would present. And so making that investment in camera equipment and lighting um, is for us it was is natural to do that because we if we want to present ourselves in the best way, then doing that, making that investment. And I think obviously because of COVID at the time when that hit and you couldn't do face to face, so therefore then making that investment in looking good on camera is a key thing. I think that people it's a I said people do judge whether you think we should or not. It's another thing, but it does make a difference on how you present yourself and how you sound and look on camera. So it is worth that investment if it's something if it's if you're going to if you want to present ideas or concepts to clients and stuff like that, which we do, then presenting ourselves well is key to that.
Thank you. Uh, our second question is, and we lump them together. What is AI and what is AGI? And you sort of went into it, but let's talk about it from the standpoint of someone who doesn't know anything about AI and AGI. And I I'm gonna be transparent and tell you that I did a lot of homework since we had our initial conversation about AGI. And so I've watched quite a few videos, but um, I would say the general public is has an idea about AI, but most of them have no clue as to AGI. So um, let's talk about what AI is and then what AGI is.
Okay, so AI, artificial intelligence, as as it's kind of been used now as kind of what's called large language models. That's what most people kind of identify as, things like ChatGPT is the example. That's come almost the people understand what ChatGPT is, even though there are multiple different companies and organizations that are doing it. But it's what's termed as a kind of a large language model where it the way that it actually works is by the knowledge base that it has knows that, okay, what would be the most logical next word to come after this word is, well, makes more sense for this word to come next, and just using its knowledge, using, to work out what the next sequence of words to come back in a large language model. Now, that's kind of it's a very kind of a narrow definition of it. Um, for years now, it can AI be programmed to, like I said before, play chess, and which is now there isn't a human that can beat a computer system that plays chess. Um, so that I think for the general public now, we know things like ChatGPT is where it's kind of they have an idea of what it is because where they can see it, they can put in, there's an email and they want it to come up with a better response or a cleaner response to that answer. And so in simple tasks like that is where most kind of general public are with what artificial intelligence is. Even though it's been around for years, it's been used, like for example, if you have a smartphone, when you take a picture, it uses machine learning to or artificial intelligence to process that image and to produce, a great quality shot. When you think about, how small the lens is, on a smartphone compared
Mhm.
to my big lenses here on a camera, the quality of image it can generate is it's using artificial intelligence to enhance that. So, those systems have been around for a long while, but now more and more people have access to it, to where they're using it in their for simple tasks for some, but for others, we've been using it. I said been using it for a long while. I now believe, well, I know for us that we've gone to what's the next level is, which is called AGI, which is artificial general intelligence. The kind of rough definition of that is where these systems now can do tasks as good as, if not better than, a human can do them. And so that's quite those people believe we're not really there yet, or we're kind of there. I believe we are. In certain areas, we've seen that for ourselves, where it's kind of blurred the lines between AI and AGI, where we can, if you know how to task these AI solutions, it can produce results better than what we can do, and we're experts in certain fields, but it can analyze data, so much data, and come up and see patterns in that far faster than, you know, 99% of, humans on there. It's kind of, they're saying it's already PhD level in some areas. It's easily that in terms of programming. It can program in a language and then translate that program into multiple other programming languages. Um, so even though it's not tasked to do that, it can, that's kind of it's blurring the lines between AI and AGI. And as I said, for us in certain tasks like brainstorming, for example, um, it is, it's, as I said, for us, it is a real game changer in those areas, those fields of work where it's can so quickly come up with other ideas, other themes to a task that we've got, and comes up with other concepts or creative thinking that, for us, it is definitely, AGI is here for those who know how to task it. It is here. When whether that becomes more general or when it becomes more general for everybody, that's more of a human restriction or a human thinking
I, w-
part on
I
that.
want to I want to sort of get um, a point across from the standpoint of the things that you said. Now, when you say task, is it the same thing as prompt, or is that something different?
It's the same thing. Yeah, prompting or tasking, it is it's advanced prompting. So that, yes, so a task is a prompt.
Okay.
Mhm.
Do you think that that super AI is the same thing as AGI? Is it a similar term, or is it something different?
It's something different. I mean, the the definition of AGI is different between, there's not really a full understanding. It's really supposed to mean that it can, where this artificial intelligence can do a task as good as, if not better than a human. It can do tasks that it wasn't trained to do. So, it could understand a concept and apply that concept in a new area, in a totally new field.
So is it actual thinking, or is it a learning program?
Again, it's a in terms of the output that it does, it's, in terms of the quality of the results it produces, you could argue that, the that definition, does that really matter? If you
Hmm.
can task it to do, if you can prompt it to do a task that it can perform in a way that it is better than you can do it, and faster and more accurate. So whether it's um, you think of it in the same terms, well, it's a human, is that it's actually, is it now actually thinking, or is it just very, very, very clever programming? It's almost uh, the for us, it doesn't matter. It is, we can see that it is producing a quality of work that 2 months ago, on exactly the same task, it required far more input from us to be able to get it to produce that result. It's now doing that in what we call one shot. So in one prompt, we give it we put in the task once, and it's there delivers exactly what we were wanting, without then having to go back and forth and refining it and guiding it or programming it to get it right. It's now doing that in one hit, um, and producing results that we are saying, oh wow, didn't think of it being able to do that, or that's really great. And without and also without the now we've been prompting AI for since it's been out, so we are very good at that. But it's now becoming so much more of a much more natural language to use. That it's less needing a page of highly detailed, highly refined prompting to get that result. It can now, it doesn't need, it's still, I mean, still for us, can't help but not, on how we prompt, because we've been refining ours, how we prompt and what we ask it. But it is the amount, the amount of times I said it's 9 out of 10, or maybe more closer to 99 times out of 100, it gets it and produces a great result in from one
Ken,
hit.
I want to push you a little bit because
Mhm.
I'm hearing you loud and clear in terms of the things that you're talking about as far as AGI. But I want to sort of push the envelope from the standpoint of those that are not aware of AGI. How might they see some components, maybe if, even if it's just a flicker of AGI in their regular everyday life? And and you can tell me if I'm totally off base with this. So I have an iPhone 16 Pro Max
Mm.
and it has Apple Intelligence on it. And I really haven't done very much with it. But um, I also have the latest version of ChatGPT on it as well. And I've been using the voice model to have these theological conversations with it. And it's back and forth. There's a back and forth conversation
Mhm.
about the Bible, about religion, about I've asked it all kinds of questions about other faiths and it's I mean it's an amazing conversation that
Mhm.
I've had. But for regular people who may not even thought of, you know, I have friends that, if they want to know about something, they'll say, well, I'm going to Google it. They don't say I'm going to go to Chat GPT.
No.
Or even though there is probably I know that there is a Google equivalent of Chat GPT available, but they always say Google, I'm going to Google something. So, what are some ways in which regular people may be dealing with AGI and not really recognizing that they're dealing with it?
I think in the term, one example would be like in education. If you're wanting to learn or understand a concept, um, the new models now, because of they show the kind of the thinking. Um, I would normally it's with the paid models within ChatGPT or Claude, which are obviously the highest level. But I would use something like well, there are free models out there. DeepSeek, that to me was the game changer, was what caused where we are today. But going back so using something like DeepSeek or the paid versions of Claude where you can get to see 3.7, and asking it to as a teaching task where you're wanting to learn something or to have that. I mean, kind of what you were saying, what you were doing with the voice model and having that kind of back and forth conversation with it, where you would have an idea or a concept you want to put in and ask it, what does it think? Can it be some of the key prompting to kind of get really much better results would be, can you go step by step and explain this to me? You might see that the results that it can produce. So we don't use Google to search for anything anymore. We would go into the models which have a search functionality. So like ChatGPT, it has a little option there where you can get it to search the web for you. You will find that the results it produces back are they are web results. It's gone off and done the search for you and summarized it and provided you the results without you having to go through, if you were using Google and just seeing, on a page there's 10 different results and you have to go into each one to see where you find that answer. Using something like the ChatGPT and using its search functionality will do that work for you and produce those results. It will still be the link where you can go directly to the website, but you will find there that that's a much a much quicker way to find information by
It's
using it
doing
to
the
search.
legwork.
Yes, it does all of that for you rather than
Yes.
and also it skips past the parts where, because with Google, obviously they make the money with when Google searches through the advertising. You don't see paid for results. Those aren't might not necessarily be those results which are at the top of the page of people where they've paid to have that up there. And all of that gets skipped past and it goes straight to the information you're looking for. So you will find, very, very simply, if you do use, Google to search for something, try it on something like ChatGPT with its search functionality or DeepSeek with its search and see the results you would get back there. You will find that you get much better, much quicker and better results. But if you want to take it a step further, as I said, the learning experience is one of the great first steps. It is very, very good at that of giving you a personalized tutorial, a personalized information based on because you'll understand what you tell it, well, I don't understand this. Can you explain this for me in a simpler way? At refining that, that those are where we're seeing that blurring line between, that this is, you'll find it much more of a useful tool if you're new to it. That would be one of the first things that I would do to
I
kind
want to
of
ask you.
get
I want to
comfortable with
ask
it.
you about deep seek too
Mm.
also. But before we talk about deep seek, let's talk about. We have a couple of questions. We have a question from Clark Lopez Waterman, and he said, "I recently used AI to help me build a script in Isadora to take a flow number to 24-bit DMX. What pitfalls should I look for when doing this task?"
That's a great question because I know Tulloch is a expert in lighting, and so he's where um, okay to if you're kind of already know your field, um, because there are what we term is when where AI can make up a result or what we call hallucinate. So because what we program it or task it to do, we already know our field. So and so we can see whether, oh no, because it can, if it doesn't know an answer, this is where if you're prompting it, not quite prompting it correctly, it can make up an answer. So in areas or fields of knowledge where you know, you've got a good understanding of that task, this is where, for how we use it, where AI supercharges you. So if you're already an expert in your field and then you use a system like, you use these AI solutions, you become superhuman, um, because you can,
You're
you will
building,
know
you're building
at
on your own knowledge, and
exactly
that
it.
and it reinforces. You have a foundation that you already have, and then you're
Yes,
using that AI to even build a stronger building, if I can use that metaphor. So
exactly. And
that's amazing.
the difference now, what DeepSeek did, which is, yes, this Chinese model, they brought out, they were producing results almost as good as a paid for solutions that within ChatGPT or within, that we use, Claude, the paid versions of those. It was producing results almost as good as, and sometimes better than those paid ones, because what it was doing was what they called reasoning and showing, more importantly, and this is also important for this, where it kind of, you can see whether it's made up something or it's not quite right in that it shows you it's working out. That's a big difference. That's where we've seen this shift in improvement in it. When you can see what it's thinking, that it's, it comes up, okay, this is, and that's where you can then catch any of those issues or problems that where, oh no, that's not quite right, because you would see its reasoning, you see its working out rather than just seeing its answer. You want, it's now can show you its reasoning steps. And therefore, when you're looking at that, you can see, that's why it's thought that that step is quite right, or not what I really meant to ask. I can then modify that. And by seeing that reasoning, that's where it's taken this gigantic leap forward,
So if
because
you're
you
already
you
a
can see
coder,
that.
if you're already a coder and
Yes,
you ask it to create a code, you can look at it and see where the error is. It's like doing a math problem and showing your work when you do the math
it's
problem.
exactly, because it's more important. It's not actually the end answer. They want to see your reasoning of how you came to that answer. And
Yes.
when you see how it's come to that answer, one, it's a great learning tool, because that's what we've seen these great steps forward, because we're seeing, that's how it's what its thought process was. And so it's not necessarily whether that answer, but when you see the thought process, you can then question your thought process. And, oh, okay, that's how it's thinking about that. Let me re re-ask it, but with, that step that we've seen that we didn't, either didn't understand, or we think that's the wrong path, to get it back on track. And that's the difference. That's where, and to go to the DeepSeek part, what DeepSeek did was, because in China they weren't allowed access to, the level of, compute, because the West weren't allowed to sell to China that level of compute. They came up with this better reasoning model. They made it open source, which is a very big thing, because then you can, if you don't, trust your data going to China, it's an open source model that you can download for yourself. You need, okay, the biggest model you need some pretty beefy computers or server system to
It
do
it
it,
it it
but
sounds
you can do it
amazing.
yourself.
The only question I have is that there are people who say that DeepSeek is not safe, and I just wanted to get your opinion. Well, the questions are sort of piling up, so I want
Mm.
to see if
Well,
you can give me
if you
a
feed and well, it's a great point, and because yes, that data is going to Chinese servers which are doing that. They made it open source. That means you can download the model yourself and run it on your own computers. So it's not, it won't go to any servers that you do because you've downloaded it and you can run it yourself. That's the big difference. That kind of changed, and you also see its thinking, which kind of changed the model. And we've now got this arms race between all the different AI producers, and that's why Claude has said 3.7, the latest chat GPT. I know there's an issue people have with 4.5 with saying, oh, it's not that good in certain tasks. They're not quite understanding what that model is, but we might go into that if some people are asking, because
okay.
what actually 4.5 isn't a reasoning model. It's a base model that you then use to make a reasoning model from. So yeah, it's massively expensive to use, but you've got to think of it as more of a base model that they've made an increase, an improvement with. When they turn that, using that base model for the reasoning, then you will see, you know, well, AGI will become more open to more people rather than just those who have been working with it for a long time and know how to prompt it.
Okay. We're going to come back to that.
Mhm,
Definitely, we want to talk about prompting for regular people.
mhm.
Laura Thompson, Beaumont, Texas, asked, "Where is the limit?" Oh, I'm sorry, I'm reading. That's the wrong question. We're going to go to that question. So this question is actually from Mike Edwards. Where's the limit you see in AGI having facilitate conversations slash relationships between people?
Um, Limits, a good question. Good. It was thought, again, time moves so quickly in this field, a few months ago that we are hitting a limit, that the level of compute that we have to pull the AI into for learning to get the next model, that we are kind of hitting a limit, people thought. Then DeepSeek came, showed how it can produce the model using a fraction of the compute, and we're in a whole new ball game. So imagine the power of something like what DeepSeek can do on a very basic computer, say. Imagine taking that learning, because you can, because it's open source, and applying that to the latest computers. You can see that the where the next steps, well, how quickly we've gone. So this new way of um of getting the large language models to compute has totally moved away what limits that some people thought that we were starting to hit. So to answer your question, there aren't, those limits
Don't exist.
that aren't there anymore, I don't believe.
Wow.
You will see there is a new, in terms of that kind of discussion back and forth, there's a new program. It's still in demo mode, still hasn't been released, called Sesame. I think Sesame, just double check, where this model, yeah, um, yeah, sesame.com. You can go there. It's free.
Sesame.com.
Yes, it's a free, and there's a demo model. They only have two voices presently, but its level of voice interaction, the nuances that it has when you talked with it, is um, indistinguishable or almost indistinguishable from, you chatting with another human. Um,
We're
and
getting
this
into
was
the
going to,
scary
again, going
stuff.
to be open source.
This is the
Yes,
scary stuff.
yes, it is. It is. We were already kind of there, but it was always a kind of uncanny valley where it's almost, you can tell it was just something in the back of your brain when hearing it or looking at it that
Yeah,
wasn't quite right. And
right.
they have a way of, they, that model in terms of, voice interaction, they're there or almost there. Um, in
Yeah,
so
I want to push back from the standpoint of, you know, during the election season here in the United States, there were several different AI components where they were talking to they had actual candidates and they were using the AI to actually have them say things that they normally wouldn't say. And you knew that it was pretty good, but it wasn't the person.
mm,
So what I'm hearing you say with this sesame is that it may be we may be on beyond that point where we can actually distinguish between
well,
the AI
I
and
think
people.
what it does, and um, this point has been brought up before by some others. Um, you, in that you shouldn't believe directly any news source, whether before AI came, anyway. A lot of people did, they stuck with their one news channel or one newspaper, and whatever it said, it was gospel to them.
Hmm.
And so we've had that for generations before. Now, what would you should question any um, any news program or article or anything that you've seen on. You should have been questioning it before. Now you know you need to question it because it could be AI. So at least what you it will start, not for everyone, but for a lot of people to actually question what was said. And you should have been doing that before, and you definitely need to be doing that now, and you will have to be doing that in the future. To question that, seeing it from multiple sources, you know, um,
I want to ask you
or
about
whether
those
you believe.
multiple sources. Do you think it should be a minimum of three, or when you say multiple sources in terms of verifying the information?
Yeah, there are the benefit now. There are some very good services out there. Ground News is one where they go through dozens, you know, 50, 60, 70 sources, and show what biases that source has, whether it's to the left or to the right or to the middle, and puts all of those together for you then to make your mind or make a choice. And it gives you, the so as many as you can. And again, this is where AI can help with that if you're wanting to kind of fact check as such or question those. You need to think you should have been doing this before. You should have been always looking at, who is the power behind that source? What angle do they have? So that the media, because the owner of that media organization could have a particular bias themselves. We all have biases, and some of those they are paid for, or that they have that bias that they're doing that news from. So we should have been questioning all of this before. So it's, but now, yes, you need to doubly make sure that you're questioning everything you see or read, just to make to just question it. Just don't take anything as read.
Okay, we're going to getting in. We're running out of time. We're going to get into the
Right.
speed round now. So we're
Yes.
going to ask Laura Thompson, Beaumont, Texas says, What are the best practices for integrating AI into life and still know what is real or made up? How do we not lose the human factor in the process? For example, things like emotion.
Okay. The we find actually the emotional intelligence is one thing that people say, well, you know, you don't get with that. We found it to have a much higher emotional intelligence than the majority of people. When asked a certain task, for to help you within, you will find that with the majority of these systems, they have a higher emotional intelligence than most people. So, we again, always start from an area that you know, that you're knowledgeable about, to just question, to see that it's that, okay, yes, I know this, and I'm just kind of double checking it with it and saying, okay, wow, this is producing good results. But as I said, now because you can see its thought process, if you're not sure, look at its thought process, and then you can see, oh, that's why it's making that reasoning rather than not.
Well,
Because
it's
yes,
leaning
it's
in a
pulling from
particular
the web,
direction.
and there is a lot of rubbish out there. So,
Yes,
that's because anyone can publish anything. So if it's pulling from that resource, that's why things can be kind of made up, because a ton of stuff, so much stuff out there already is made up or wrong. So the bet, so it is getting better. It is much better now, and with you know good prompting and stuff. As I said, we're seeing this improvement within it, with its a lot less level of making stuff up or hallucinating. It's getting much and
that's
much better.
fantastic.
But the web already out there, the
Yes, so
majority of
it's
it is
garbage in,
is
garbage out.
garbage.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
it's
get it.
garbage in.
Cloud Lopez Waterman asked me a question. He says, how has ChatGPT helped you tonight, Tony?" So, Ken, you already know the answer to this question, but for the viewers, in the pre-show, I was totally out of focus, and I am using as my primary camera. I'm using an iPhone 13 Pro Max. That is what I'm using, but I'm using it with an application called Black Magic Camera app, and it's from the actual Black Magic Design company that produce high-end cameras. Black Magic Camera app, I think I look pretty good. Black Magic Camera app is free. I encourage anyone with a smartphone that's interested in doing anything. There are tons and tons of video applications out there. I've used all of them at different points in times. The one I'm using right now is called Black Magic Camera app. It is amazing. Um, I would encourage everyone that has an iPhone and Android phone that if you have an opportunity to download it, it's free, play around with it. So the issue I was having tonight was that I'm going to actually even switch to the Black Magic settings. And so you see all the settings around me, all of the different settings that are here. So I was out of focus. And my producer was telling me, he said, "You're out of focus." And so I was looking at all those dials and buttons and stuff, and I was pushing different ones. I didn't see focus. And so I would text him, is this it? Is it any better? And so it occurred to me to go ahead and ask ChatGPT, how do I get into focus? And I asked ChatGPT how to focus, and it told me to touch the image that I want to focus on, which I'm doing, and then I hold it again. So now it's off. I should be a little bit out of focus. Now I'm going to, and I should be in focus. And so that's the answer. I asked ChatGPT how to get back into focus. It was quick. It was amazing. We were 30 minutes before the show, and I was able to ask ChatGPT how to do that, and it did. So it was amazing. Um, we did not get through a lot of the stuff that I had intended for us to get through tonight. So we're going to have to get you back again to talk again
No
about
problem.
AGI. What's next for Kenn Jordan?
Yeah, well, what's next for us is, as I said, we're deep diving into uh, AGI or the AI systems for us. Um, and yeah, it, as I said, transformed our workload and our workflow, and we are reorganizing ourselves and kind of doing that. I'm already doing that. And in an earlier show, that moved to Ireland, and we are now in the well, it's actually a long story. That's another story of actually the property
Can you
that we've
lift up
now
the
found.
link of for that
Yes, ourecojourney.com. That's ourecojourney.com is the website. There's going to be a big update on that because we've totally changed where we are. The house we've now put an offer on, and we're moving into is going to be much more complete. There's not going to be the level of work and involvement that we were going to do. We're spending a bit
Okay.
more, and
Are you
that
going to
that
be
means we're going to
still
do
able
that.
to go swimming?
Oh yes, I still do my regular swims. We won't be as close to the coast as we are presently here, where it's a kind of walking distance. We're going to be more based in a we have a kind of a forest behind that, so it'll be much more mountain biking and cycling and hiking um,
Chris
stuff.
Clark
But
just popped in, Ken, with a question. It seems that it seems that growing sophistication of AI programs may be driving people away from counting on electronic sources as believable towards live, in-person sources of news, advice, and care.
I think what the systems can do, if you think of it more for work and doing a lot of kind of repetitive or boring tasks that it can do really quickly, or brainstorming, or if you're um, for creative thinking, or if you've got I'm not sure what next steps to do, it can help to do that, leaving you more time for kind of human interaction, being on shows like this, having conversations with others. I think that's where we will. That's the ideal future. I suppose I'm maybe being a bit idealistic on that, but that's where I see it going. It will actually leave more time for kind of human interaction, for you to um, talk with others, to and therefore make, because that's, I believe, where we will see improvement in, where actually getting you to talk and giving you more time to actually interact with others and actually talk with others about any issues and stuff that you have, because it's through talking, it's through that, having that personal dialogue, that we will, solve the problems, and questioning questioning your news. I mean, to be honest, I don't, you know, very rarely do I look at news, um, because I was in this field producing news content. I know how the sausage is made. I know how they do that, and
Wow.
so it's
That sounds like another conversation.
it is. Yes, yes, yes.
Yes. Yes. So we're gonna put that in the book. So our very last question, you're speaking to the world. What do you want the world to know?
Okay. In relationship to what we were talking about before, as I said earlier, question everything. Don't take on face value, your where you normally at the source for information. Just look at further, look at the other side, you know, um, before jumping to a conclusion. If something comes across and it's very sensational, I said I used to work in the news field for one of the biggest news organizations in the UK. Um, it's they design it for you to have a reaction. So the more sensational it is, the majority of the time, that isn't really the case. So just broaden your horizons. Don't take everything you take, as read, and um, or I do minimize your exposure to that because it is designed to suck you in to get you to react and to pass on, oh, did you read this or that? Spend more time rather than consuming, creating. Um, you'll find you have much more time and you will have a much better lifestyle if you spend more of your time rather than sitting back and being fed is in leaning forward and creating stuff for yourself.
Thank you, Kenn Jordan. Thank you again for being with me tonight. Really appreciate it. Appreciate you staying up late. And I appreciate your support with Conversations with Tony Mobley. Conversation with Tony Mobley can be seen on YouTube as well as my website, conversationwithtonymobley.com, created by Mr. Kenn Jordan. Conversation with Tony Mobley is produced by valued audiovisual professionals who meet daily on Office Hours Global, hosted by Alex Lindsay. We want to thank Mimo Live. We are powered by Mimo Live. The graphics that you've seen tonight, the lower thirds, is powered by Mimo Live. We have great conversation with real people. Stay tuned for new episodes and great conversations. We want to ask you if you have time, please go back and look at the 100 plus episodes of Conversation with Tony Mobley. We think that you will find something that might be helpful and something that you might like. So we encourage you to do that. Uh, Thank you, Kenn Jordan, for being a part of our conversation today, for doing the work you do, for being the person who you are. We ask that you stay tuned for new conversations. I want to just say that there's a possibility of a great big surprise for next week. So I'm going to ask everyone to stay tuned. I'm just waiting on confirmation that the guest is going to be available. And it is definitely worth coming back for on next week, the 12th of March. If you like and subscribe, we ask that you like and subscribe to Conversations with Tony Mobley on YouTube. You also can donate at conversationwithtonymobley.com. If you go to the website and you go down to the bottom of the page, there you will see an opportunity to donate to Conversation with Tony Mobley. You can donate one time. You can donate monthly. You can donate any way that you'd like to donate. And so we encourage you to support Conversation with Tony Mobley so that we can continue to have great conversation with different individuals all over the world, because Mr. Kenn Jordan is coming in from the UK and it's after 1 o'clock a.m. for him. Last week we had Mr. Dr. Keja Hazmat Gaijar, who was coming in from Cape Town, South Africa. And so we encourage you to continue to support Conversations with Tony Mobley. We want to say take care. God bless. See you soon. Good night.